What's up, everyone? This is Sterling Brown here again with the Combot Collective, bringing you everything you want to know about the 2021 Battlebots season. We're now continuing on with our 8-part Battlebots Preview Series, jumping into the eastern part of the U.S. now with our New England and Eastern regions. It'll just be me here alongside with a fellow person, of course, very familiar with the East Coast, living in Pennsylvania, talking about PoryNog here. Before we start, you can join along with us, read along with us by looking at the Combot Collective Battlebots Preview document, which you can find in the description. Has detail on all 60 plus Battlebots competitors this year. And also in that description, you can find our Facebook and Instagram, so please follow that and join our Discord community. You can find all these links in our Linktree below. And on top of that, if you are on the go, we still want you tagging along. So you can find our audio-only versions of these shows on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, anywhere you can find your podcasts. By the time this episode comes out, the first half of this series should be on audio only. And that's that. That's enough talking. Let's get into the second half of this Battlebots Preview Series.
Welcome to the Combot Collective.
Starting off here with a robot coming back and a fan favorite, probably one of the robots with the most changes this season. It's been a big topic of conversation. Of course, we're talking about Alkindle, the longest active roboteer right now is a hammer saw. It's now a hammer saw. We're talking about Blacksmith here, coming in with a 5-9 career record. Of course, the most notable change out of any robot this season, most likely, the weapon change of Blacksmith, now called the Power Hammer, based off one of their sponsors, but it still shoots the signature flames, which is a big thing. They're also coming in now with brushless motors this year, still running the usual max amp batteries, but they have a new battery system. Everything now runs off one system, which means they can now run with one less battery, which saves weight a little bit. They also have a custom flamethrower system and much thinner armor than last year. I don't know if I already said that or not. Because Al Kendall said in an interview that the thicker armor just straight up didn't matter for Blacksmith, so they switched off. It's one of the most drastic changes of any robot this season. Huge topic of conversation. What are we thinking about Blacksmith this year, Pory?
I'm looking forward to it. I know a lot of people I'm seeing are like upset that it's now like the Power Hammer as opposed to that, but like, I mean, there's still gonna be flames. Like, yeah, I'm gonna miss it like being like frenzy and just like frantically like wailing with the hammer, but also like it'll actually do damage now, hopefully. So I'm actually looking forward to that. It'll be nice, and Alkindle won't be the butt of judges' decisions anymore as well.
Right. People will be making fun of his salty moments of him getting all stompy and angry, crossing his arms and stuff. But I digress. Blacksmith, of course, a fantastic robot, probably the most fantastic. I always called it the best bout machine of BattleBots because it can really put together a fight with any robot and be absolutely spectacular. And that was with the hammer configuration. Now Blacksmith, on top of the fire, it's going to be throwing sparks. It's going to be ripping parts off opponents. And it's still probably going to be as aggressive and reliable as ever, and as well driven. Al Kindle is obviously a fantastic driver, and like you said, it's going to be a big deal now for him that he's going to be able to start winning some of those judges' points, something that hindered him for so long. Of course, he always said that he was always going to stay away from a vertical spinner, and he has come to a good compromise. The hammer saw is something in the middle, something good in between, but now that does sort of leave Shatter as the only true hammer coming into this year, which is a bit of a bummer, but I am very excited to see Blacksmith this year. So where do you think Blacksmith's going to end up for the in terms of the playoff picture? Do you think they're going to finally have a good chance at a run?
Yeah, I think that I feel like they surely are around 32 bot. I mean, I
Absolutely,
feel like
yeah.
Blacksmith also is one of those robots that I don't want, I don't want to throw accusations around, but like how BattleBots will give the more popular robots who are 1 and 2, a shot in the round of 32. Even Blacksmith
Yeah,
goes 1 and 2. I could see them just tossing it in, like how they did with Gruff last year.
especially. I mean, if you put together those high quality fights like Gruff did, I definitely think you deserve the spot.
Yeah,
Same with Kraken, another robot who kind of got in on that kind of merit. It will be very interesting to see what the Blacksmith schedule does end up being. I think a lot of us know what its first fight is going to be. It's been
yeah,
posted in the trailer and everything. That fight against Free Shipping. Free Shipping,
that
another
should be
one
a
of
fun
those.
one.
Oh my God, it's going to be so good. Free Shipping, another one of those robots. I would put in that trinity of robots that just can't seem to have a bad fight. Whoever you put them against, it's
Yeah,
going to be must see TV. So that fight, it's going to be absolutely insane. There's going to be fire everywhere. There's going to be parts everywhere. Bots are going to get slammed left and right. And maybe my all-time favorite fight, also featuring Free Shipping with a Duck and Mecha Rampage as well. Maybe that fight will get a challenge this year. I can definitely see Blacksmith doing that. It's had classics in the past. Of course, it's had a classic with spot like Witch Doctor, Minotaur, uh, Quantum. Maybe not a classic with Quantum, but it was definitely an interesting fight. Definitely with Sawblaze. That's another really good one. Warhead as well. But talking about future fights for Blacksmith, the team has expressed interest with fighting Tombstone. They say every year they feel like it's inevitable that that's going to be the year that they have to fight Tombstone. And I get it. It's definitely a popular fight that people want to see, and they're both popular names. They even teased it in 2019. I remember they had both robots by each other um, when they had it announced the top 16 bracket yet, and they had Tombstone and Blacksmith by each other in the pits, and everyone was like, "Oh no, it's finally gonna happen." But no, not yet. Despite that,
yeah,
like you said, um, very excited for Blacksmith this year. I definitely think it's going to be a top 32 robot, maybe even top 16 with the right opponent and the
yeah,
right run. I definitely,
yeah. I definitely agree.
it's another robot I would also like to see in the bounty bracket. I feel like it would really thrive in those 1 day tournaments just because the team has always been really good with spares and repairing. They have a really efficient crew with them. Um, uh, I believe they are the only New Jersey robot this year. I might be incorrect. But yeah, there's no
Yeah,
Bale
yeah,
Spear
you're
this year.
right.
Bale Spear out here struggling at Robot Ruckus. But speaking of Bale Spear, of course, the team, Earl Pentecost III, and I think someone else is joining Blacksmith for this year. So that's another
Yeah.
interesting facet. It's always nice to have that experienced pit crew. It does play a big factor in the game. But now let's move on to our next robot coming out of Virginia. Now coming in with one of the most unique robots in Battlebots this year, made by the Navy divers. Of course, we're talking about Deep Six, which recently moved to Virginia, originally in San Diego for the 2019 season, captained by Dustin Eswine. Only a 2-1 career record in terms of heavyweight, but 3-3 full lineage if you include the lightweight Deep Six and competed in Robo Games. They have made huge changes this year, of course, the big one having to accommodate with the new Battlebots Deep Six weapon rule. Um, they now are coming in with a brand new 80-pound weapon, though it is completely made out of AR 500. Along with that, they have made other upgrades, multiple front wedge configurations, including one really long configuration called the Long Fork, a custom 2-stage gearbox for the weapon. Along with that, they have a specialized clutch assembly system so they can self-right better, higher speed and torque weapon hub sprocket, and the batteries now feature full support, so likely we won't see anything like we saw last year. On top of that, they now have padded ESCs as well. The team has replaced the top metal armor with clear plating, and I believe that's it. The team has said that they wanted to make everything beefier and everything more reliable. And on paper, with Deep Six, this robot, one of the most unique in the field, I'd have to agree. It definitely looks like it's going to be an exciting robot to see this year. They're going to have the stabilizers, of course, for the full season. None of that goofy stuff like we saw in the Daisy Cutter Rumble. What do you think this year of Deep Six, Pory?
I'm very much looking forward to it. I mean, Deep Six is one of my favorite robots, period. So
Yeah.
I am very excited to see the new Deep Six. I'm excited to see that it's a little bit less of a glass cannon. Like if it gets flipped over, it can self-right. And yeah, the bar isn't 100 pounds anymore because obviously Deep Six provoked a rule that made them not allowed to have a
It's
100-pound bar. But I think it
yeah.
should still dish some hits. I think they designed it specifically so it can like send robots flying, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Oh yeah. After what I saw in person with the Nelly fight when I went in 2019, I could absolutely understand why they had to make the rule. That weapon is absolutely insane. Tore chunks out of both the text box floor and the battle box floor. But Destin Eswine, despite the heavy gyro of Deep Six, he has been a pretty good driver of the robot. By the time he was fighting axe backwards, it looks like he had the robot pretty tuned in outside the part where it completely set on fire. But they have had 2 years to completely fix everything. They've done plenty of testing, as we've seen, in terms of weapon testing and with self-writing testing. Tons of self-write tests because we've seen them all on Facebook, of course, and everything. Uh, I'm so excited to see Deep Six again. I know that much for sure. They really took me by surprise into 2019. They ended up having a winning record, but I guess just due to the weapon problems, they probably couldn't let it run further into the season, or the weapon power, I should say. Um, but yeah, absolutely fantastic robot. Do you think Deep Six has a shot at the playoffs this year with all the things they have going for it? It's going to be very long. It's going to be a long shot. I think it's going to have to. It's definitely going to be a big schedule based kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it depends. Is Deep Six gonna fight like robots that are on its level, or are they gonna throw like Tombstone at it or something? Like it really depends on who it gets, but I do think that Deep Six will make the round of 32. I'm thinking like 2-1 somewhere in that ballpark. I'm hoping they go 3-0 because they're on my fantasy league and I need to win. So
Right.
hoping for the best with that. But yeah, I think they got a good shot at going in. And if they don't make bracket, I could see them like doing a deep bounty run or whatever they're replacing the
Yeah.
bounties with.
Oh yeah. That would be really exciting. Um, didn't think about a fight versus Tombstone. That would be really exciting. Probably be really short, but man, what an impact that would
It'd
be.
be like one hit, but it'd be a good hit.
Mm-hmm. Just like that's why I wanted Tombstone versus Son of Waiachi so much. But I digress. Talking about Deep Six here. I could definitely see it getting a schedule similar to what it had in 2019. I can see it getting in maybe a couple can crushers, a couple of bots that can knock around really hard. Um, it's going to be an interesting first fight. It can maybe will fall into that regard depending on the robot, how it ends up performing this year for the people who know, of course. I believe that's been revealed to supporters. I don't believe it's been public yet, at least that fight.
It's
Um,
not public yet, no.
yeah, that's what I figured. Um, but yeah, the team, like I said, recently moved to the East Coast. They've changed up a lot of stuff. So hopefully that's not going to be a big issue. Hopefully they've been able to settle well. Super excited to see this team in action. I do think that they can make a run in the playoffs if they have the right schedule. Although I do see, I think they will end up with a big opponent. It's about time they get that signature opponent. They didn't get too much in the 2019 season. Their biggest opponent was X backwards, so that says something about the situation. But yeah, very excited for Deep Six this year. As we now move on to our next robot. Moving on now, it's fitting. Of course, I wore my Baltimore Orioles shirt that I had. Of course, the team is from Maryland here for this part. Because now we're talking about Maryland's only robot, and a robot that I think has benefited most from Orlando Maker Faire and Robot Ruckus and the effect it has for heavyweight competitors. Of course, we're talking about Ricky Williams' creation, the 6 foot tall, biggest robot in Battlebots history and heavyweight history, in fact. We're talking about Mammoth, who made the top 8 last year, coming in with a career record of 11-8. That's factoring both its Battlebots and Orlando fights. It has had some big updates this year. Of course, the most notable one, as we've seen on Getty Images and the main website, the brand new weapon attachment, the Tusk flipper lifter thingy on Mammoth this year. Of course, a bit more vertical spinner looking than its usual weaponry setup with the teeth on the end. We do not know if this is a permanent fixture or if this is just one of numerous configurations that they are running this year. But there are some other changes as well. Due to frying wires during tests, I believe, the team has changed their wiring system to give the Mammoth robot more power this year, which they do have in their lifter now. They can now manage 185 horsepower during a lift, according to their social media. And they have made changes to their armor system as well. They have lost an entire pound of weight without having to sacrifice any strength. And one of the main reasons for that might be for the fact that they have some new carbon fiber built parts inside Mammoth. So plenty of upgrades for the robot this year. Pory, what do you think of the brand new Mammoth this year?
It looks good. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what it can do. I mean, it had a very impressive performance last year, and I feel like they could probably do that again with the right schedule. I do worry about it against like spinners though, because a lot of the robots that it fought last year, like, Huge was like, it beat Huge, but like it was like
Yeah,
pretty close to getting taken out by it, and Hypershock did it in pretty good. But like
absolutely.
a lot
Yeah.
of its other wins, like Copperhead, like kind of was like just having like text issues or something. Like the spinner just wasn't working right, and then
Yeah.
Deadlift's a lifter, but it also was seeming to have teething trouble. So I'm a little worried about like, if it fights like, Tombstone or Blade or something. But they said they have a strategy for that, so I'm actually looking forward to seeing what that strategy would be.
Yeah, they might bring those bulky front wedges that they have had in seasons past. And I think I did say that they were a top 8 last year. I think no, I know that's incorrect. They were top 16. My mistake. But it was still a very impressive run from them last year. They did also fall to Smee, which was a very fascinating bounty fight. They definitely though had their best season. It was a banner season. They haven't really had a bad event yet out of either Orlando or in BattleBots. They've always been a super exciting robot, and there's no other robot really like it. Managing it out of the arena in both of its BattleBot seasons so far. I do believe that they will end up back in the playoffs this year. I don't believe we know any of their fights as of right now.
We don't, I don't think.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But they are a very exciting robot, of course, coming into the 3-3 record in 2020. And they even had that one fight, the very first fight of the BattleBot season last year, technically on what was that one guy's show? Remember that the one
Uh,
with Black Widow?
uh, Josh Gates tonight.
Yeah, Josh Gates tonight, the unofficial first fight of the season. It's so funny. If that fight was just aired middle of the season, nobody would have thought about it. But since it was first and everyone was so desperate for a fight, everyone gathered around to see that fight. I remember
Yeah, I
making
watched
it.
that show, and I'm just like, I don't get the because like nothing against Josh Gates, but like it's not really my kind of show. It's kind of like dad humor. So like I was kind of like sitting through it. I'm just sitting through this whole episode. I'm like, where's the robots? There's supposedly a BattleBots fight in this.
Yeah, it was so weird. It was like a podcast news show thing, but it was done with ads and it was a show. It was very strange. Even the BattleBot segment, of course, was really good. And I guess it's doing pretty good because I still think it's going on. But yeah, that
Yeah,
was
I
a
think it's
very
popular.
fascinating one. Shout out to Josh Gates though. He's a cool dude. But
Yeah, he seems neat. I would hang out with him.
right. Um, but yeah, of course, Mammoth coming from a 30-pound version of itself. Very exciting robot. We've seen it grow up definitely through the years from 2018, where it sparked up a lot of buzz in Orlando, fighting robots like Foxic and Predator and You Go Nowhere, having them getting quite a buzz for throwing some robots around, bouncing in 2019, and now becoming a proper playoff contender in 2020. It's going to be hard to follow up that run, like we were talking about, but
Yeah,
Mammoth should be super exciting to see this year. As we now move on
yeah,
to our
definitely.
absolutely, but yeah, now let's move on to our next East Coast robot here, as we go on to a robot that also is known for the live scenes in Pain Train. Moving on, of course, we would talk about Norwalk Havoc quite a bit in these recent Eastern region episodes. Probably a robot more synonymous with Norwalk Havoc than any robot this year. I think they're literally sponsored by them, in fact. We're talking about Team Shredded's 1 and 2 robot coming into this year, Pain Train, a COVID rookie last year that didn't have the most exciting season, but did come in with a very unique design, something similar to Chigger or some of the other more angular, more triangle-shaped vertical spinners. Coming in with the egg beater drum last year. Now it has a more serrated drum style, and the fact the whole robot itself is a more traditional style. Still fairly compact from what we've seen, but they now come in with exposed wheels instead of last year where the wheels were packed in there. Bit larger than last year as well. I think Pain Train was one of the smallest bots in the field last year. But now the wheels are a bit further back, so it doesn't look like the wheeling issue is going to be an issue. It seems like they have some wedgelet shaped things up front. And I really do believe that this robot has a chance to be one of the breakout robots of the year. We always see that one robot that did abysmal last year and then comes in and has a crazy season this year. I do believe that Pain Train has a shot to be at it. Of course, we always know this team's been sharpening their blade at Norwalk Havoc at literally every event, always putting out a good record, always bettering their driving. Evan Aria is a pretty solid driver in his own right. Wasn't really shown too much in last year's BattleBots, but I think we're really going to see it this year. I know you have similar thoughts, Pory. What are you thinking about Pain Train this year?
I mean, Pain Train's looking great. I'm very excited for them. I feel that. I mean, I feel like they definitely accepted Pain Train on the merit of how they perform out. Even in the one interview, Greg Munson did, he was like, "Yeah, there's a few robots that like I looked at their like record outside of BattleBots and was like, yeah, that's impressive." And I think Shred It Bro was like the thing he was thinking of when he said that,
I
probably.
think so, yeah.
Yeah. So
Orby as
I
well,
feel like,
maybe.
oh yeah, Orby probably like, but I mean, he was talking about ones that like were coming back, like that
That's fair.
didn't
That's
do hot
fair.
in the 2020 season. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he got, you know, Paintring got one win last year, but it wasn't a very phenomenal win. I mean, its weapon literally came
I
out.
don't think it won that fight personally. I know that was a controversial
I
one.
would have had Smee on it, yeah. But this season, I kind of have Pain Train as one of the like 2 or 3 robots that I have for a dark horse run. I genuinely think they're a shoe in for the round of 32, and I think that they could even go further. It looks a lot sleeker. The weapon looks better. And they had more time to cock it in. They didn't build it in 3 weeks. Like that was Pain Train's
Yeah.
biggest issue. Really, was
A
that
lot of those COVID
it was
machines
built
had
in
that
three
issue.
weeks.
Yeah. They've
Yeah.
had the whole year now for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, delivery still looks as fantastic as ever. And like you were saying, this is a robot I definitely can see going to the top 8 if possible. With the right run, the right schedule, the right reliability, and the right luck, of course. We all know it's a fantastic driver. And like you were saying, it's really good that we see BattleBots looking into those team records. I think that probably helped bots like Claw Viper and Big Dill out as well with how they performed on the West Coast. Talking about Pain Train here, of course, we always see Shredded Bro and Shredded X and a lot of those Shredded team robots and all the and their team members robots as well. They've always been a mainstay in Norwalk Havoc, always performing very well, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of those robots in the Norwalk finals that we're going to be covering very soon here at TCC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Super exciting to see Pain Train this year.
definitely.
I don't know. I know they're still compact, but I don't know how compact they are compared to last year. Like I said, I know they are a little bit bigger, but I am fascinated to see how it's going to be. We do know
Pretty
it's first
small
round
robot.
opponent, and it's going to be a very interesting contrast because we
gonna
know
be a
its
fun
first round
fight.
opponent's a big robot.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to that. That should be a lot of fun. Actually, I think Shreddit Bro just became the #1 seed at Norwalk, so
Oh,
that's a
really?
pretty big. That's a pretty big thing. Yeah,
It took it back.
one of the Shreddit robots did.
It took the spot, or one of them did, right?
Yeah, one of them
That's
is a
really exciting.
#1 seed in it now. So like, they're no slouch for sure.
Yeah, they definitely have the competence. It just hasn't translated to the heavyweight level yet. Um, but it seems like the big issue last year, and the reason why a lot of people weren't rating it very highly, was because of the wheeling people saw in a test box. And it ended up being a prevalent issue, and it ended up putting it on the wrong side of some historic moments, like Slammo suplexing it. But we do know that that weapon did have some serious power. We saw it in the chances it did land some really serious shots to Slammo, and it did manage to rip off one of Smee's blades. So the potential was there. I believe we did something goofy, like they put the plates on upside down or something like that. I remember reading
The
about.
frame, I think the frame was built upside down or something, or it
Yeah,
was like designed up. It was something to do with upside down.
something silly like that. But yeah, the freshman issues are behind them now, and Pain Train has a lot coming in this year. A lot of hype coming in, at least from TCC's side, at least. Real dark horse this year, in our opinion, and we're very excited to see them as we now move on to our next robot. Going from Virginia to New York, now back to Virginia here. We're talking about Perfect Phoenix, a very interesting robot to finally see competing in BattleBots last year, of course. A robot with very much of a lineage, coming in with a 211 record under Brutality, and of course the 2009 BattleBots champion under that name. Paul Ventimiglia's BattleBots heavyweight before Bite Force, competing in only one BattleBots event and a bunch of Combots Cup events, including winning Combots Cup 2 and competing in Combots Cup 1, where it helped retire the legendary Biohazard. But now the robot has been sold to Hardcore Robotics and runs as the team's second robot, captained by Tyler Negan, of course, Doom Kid, the biggest prodigy in robot combat right now, of course, who has had serious success in U.S. small bots divisions and has even gone overseas, having success with it's God, this robot's name is slipping me. But
Bugglebot, Thunderchild.
Thunderchild? No, that's Nate's robot.
Oh, not Captain Doom.
Captain Doom. There we go. I believe it was Captain Doom.
Yeah,
It's
I get him
definitely
mixed up
something
all the
with.
time.
It's definitely something with Doom in it. I believe he made the grand finals in the first series, or something along that line.
Third place.
Third place, there we go. Either way, Tyler Negan is a very successful driver, and he even showed that success this year. I mean, last year in 2020, going 2-1 in regular season, sneaking into the playoffs, but having some bad luck drawing eventual champion Endgame in the top 32, which busted their weapon, causing them to run with a very neutered weapon in the bounty tournaments. But there has been changes made this year. Of course, they're likely coming in with new blades this year. But the changes we do know are that they have completely upgraded their weapon and drive systems to modernize the mag motors this year. The brutality. Perfect Phoenix was coming in weighing the classic 220 pounds or slightly above it last year, but they now weigh the full 250 this year. And the final update we know is that they have a completely reprogrammed ESC system for more efficiency this year in 2021. It's always exciting to see a legendary robot like Brutality under Perfect Phoenix's name competing. It's obviously a Battlebots classic for the hardcore fans. And I'm pretty excited to see it, but I don't believe it's gonna be really hard for them to follow the success they had last year. What do you think, Pory, about Perfect Phoenix?
I mean, I'm excited to see it. I mean, it's a cool robot, but there are definitely some problems. The big glaring one is obviously that it is a like 15-year-old robot.
Yeah.
Like that
It's definitely
I mean, yeah, there are updates,
17 years now, in fact.
but yeah, it's an older robot, so that does worry me a little bit. Yeah, they did add upgrades, but there are a lot of like dated things about the design, like the fact that it can't self-right is a huge one. Like
That's a huge
the big
one.
deal
Yeah.
fight. Yeah.
Yeah,
But, other than that, though, I mean, he is a good driver, and he did show that last year. I mean, he took out Adam 94 pretty well. He took out where was it, Extinguisher?
Oh yeah.
Extinguisher kind of took itself
It
out,
was a
but
one shot, wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah, but that was
it was
partly
one
due to
shot.
extinguisher issues.
Hmm. But
But
I'm sure that Perfect Phoenix could probably wing a win, but I am worried about its capabilities of making the top 32, and if it does make the top 32, going like even to the round of 16.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't think I really don't even see it making the top 32 this year. This field this year is way too serious. This is probably the most stacked
Yeah.
field we've seen since 2019, and maybe even more stacked than that in terms of overall competitiveness. Super excited for the Perfect Phoenix though to at least see it compete again. I always like I said, I always like seeing the old robots pulled out again, but I think it's going to take a lot more than successful driving to get it in there this year. Obviously, you said no Streamec this year, and of course with the upper deck in play, it's already going to be an uphill battle this year for a lot of these horizontal spinners, especially overhead horizontal spinners. And there's just robots that are doing this design better right now. We see IceWave coming back with the crazy upgrades they have made to their engine system. And of course, we have Bloodsport, who's coming in as probably one of the best robots in the entire competition. So it's going to be an uphill battle for Team Doom Robotics, Hardcore Robotics, all the team. But who knows? Maybe we'll see some interesting stuff coming out of them. I hope we get to see them fight Tombstone. I don't think Ray would be a fan of that because he'd have to repair both robots. But that'll be a
He has to
fun,
fix his own mess.
right? Teacher and protege matchup. Or maybe even Swamp Thing in 2022 if we get that far. We're talking about 2021 here, and I definitely think it's going to be a bit of a struggle for Perfect Phoenix. So I am excited to see them as we now move on to our next robot here. Coming up next here, the only robot representing Georgia this year in the absence of a Bombshell, of course. We're talking about a robot with a bit of a chip on itself this year, coming in with a 2018 record when we saw it last at 1-4, and a career record, probably one of the lowest of the veterans this year, unfortunately, at 2-10. A very successful team, though, in the live scene, and hopefully a team that we'll see with some success this year. Of course, we're talking about Equal Zero Designs, lovely blue robot Overhaul. Went top 8 in the 2015 Battlebots Championship, but has had some trouble since. But this is a brand new design for the Clampbot, the original Clampbot in the reboot Battlebots competition. While sticking to their core theme and design, of course, they have made themselves wildly different. They're bulkier, but more compact, boxier. Definitely more strengthened in terms of their armor with the exterior wheels. They have 2 inches of ground clearance now for better maneuverability. Plenty of spares, which have been made by their new sponsor, Big Blue Saw, in terms of like clamps and wedgelets and stuff. They do have 2 front setups, which are the wedgelets, like I just mentioned, and a plow made for horizontal spinners. they test this plow setup in Norwalk fights, I believe, with the 30 Hall that were put on YouTube. And let me see, other changes. Oh, yeah. In terms of spares, like I said, plenty of spares coming in from Big Blue Saw. They have 2 fully prepared overhauls ready for this year. And yeah, I definitely do think that this is going to be a robot that we're going to see turn some heads this year and finally have a good bounce back year. What do you think of Overhaul this year, Pory?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited about the fact that it has like big beefy wheels now. I feel like it's going to be a lot more like agile than it was before, and I'm
Oh,
looking
yeah.
forward to that for sure. And I just give me some suplexes and I'll be happy. I don't know about
Right?
its longevity in the competition, but as long as I get some suplexes, I'll be very happy with them.
Seriously. I do believe that this is going to be one of the robots to really take advantage of the upper deck. I can say I've said that with a lot of the clamp robots, but a lot of that has
Yeah.
been in terms of positioning. Um, when I first saw how the upper deck ended up looking, when we finally saw the pictures of it, I was worried it was going to be more like a pit. When I saw it, it definitely kind of had vibes of a Robotica hazard. It seems like a robot with a good enough ground clearance or maneuverability. Could maybe even go up the upper deck through the sides, and I think Overhaul's probably the perfect candidate for that. With its high ground clearance and its clamp system, I could see it easily crawling up there, maybe for higher ground, better positioning, maybe even attack by jumping off the screws. Because Charles Guan, of course, is a bit of a sporadic driver. He likes having fun in the arena. I could definitely see him doing something exciting like that. But like you were saying, yeah, this is a clamp bot at its heart, and it was able to do some exciting things. I think it got a good clamp on Lockjaw in 2015 in its debut fight. But we haven't really seen them make any good clamps since then, at least in the heavyweight class. So hopefully we'll see that this year. Um, they have, like I just said, they have had some performances in Norwalk, I believe, with 30 Hall. So they have stayed sharpened in that regard, of course, getting some experience against some other BattleBots teams and some other designs. Taking notes for testing, like they have talked about. And they even appeared in Robot Ruckus in 2019 with their test bot, SadBot 2020, which was a bit of an interesting robot, but they did manage to beat Kraken with it. So they do have one heavyweight win, and that means SadBot also has half the wins that Overhaul has, which is that's a bit rough. But yeah, Overhaul definitely one of the robots. Like Blacksmith, it has made a lot of changes this year. Of course, they've had a lot of changes. Was prepared that they were playing a dish out for this year. Actually, I mean for 2020, I mean pre-COVID, that they're now finally getting to do. So plenty of time they've had to hone themselves for this year. Do you see them making a big run for 2021?
Uh, with the right scheduling, because I don't think we know any fights of theirs yet. But
Yeah, I think you're right.
with
Yeah,
the
none at all.
with the right scheduling, maybe round of 32. But I don't know about a deep run. I do hope they at least get a few wins though. Maybe like a bit of a bounty run, because I mean Kraken got a pretty good bounty run. The one
Right, you can get a
last
bit of luck
one
in a
bounty.
bounty run because robots get worn down.
Yeah. So if maybe he could like go deep in a bounty. I don't know about the actual competition, but we'll see. Maybe they could prove me wrong, and I would love for them to do so.
I really hope Battlebots doesn't shy away from some Clamper versus Clamper matchups. I feel like we didn't see many of those. I know the general consensus in the community is that those fights would be too boring for Battlebots to do or something.
Oh, I would love them.
But I feel like, especially, yeah, with the upper deck being implemented this year, you want to have some technical judo style fights like that. You want to mix up how fights look in the battle box from fight to fight. That would be a big feature. And I think Overhaul would thrive in matchups like that because Overhaul in itself, with the high ground clearance and the wheels, it also now has foam tires this year. That's another upgrade I forgot to bring up. So those are going to be better for that regard. It's going to be one of the more slippery robots for clamp bots and horizontal spinners and even vertical spinners to really get a hold of. I think to do some real damage too. So I think this is going to be a robot that we see go to a lot of judges' decisions this year and either wins or losses. And it's going to be very fascinating to see how Overhaul ends up faring this year. Of course, they have a lot to prove after having such a low record, but I feel like there's the only way to go. But up for equal zero designs here. Sorry, as we now move on to our next robot here in the Eastern region. Coming in now, we were first talking about Pain Train. Now we're talking about the second robot coming out of New York. Of course, we're talking about one of the most influential BattleBots teams from the 2010s here and robotic combat in general. We're talking about New York's Bots FC, who in 2018 they probably had with this robot one of the most successful outings of any robot in 2018. They ended up going undefeated, and this is fighting robots in the middle of the year. And then went to Robot Ruckus 2018 and ended up winning the event championship there, which ended up prompting them to get qualified for Battlebots 2019, where they have now seriously blossomed. Of course, we're talking about Shatter. The first Battlebot we've seen in the reboot to run with mechanical wheels, and the only Hammerbot we have this year. Of course, captained by Adam Wrigley. They came in with a 4-2 record in 2020 and are running with a 9-5 career record under Shatter and a 17-12 record with their full robot lineage, and that includes Mega Melvin and Blues records as well. It's been probably the most successful robot in the past decade. I would even say that they've overtaken Beta last year as probably the best hammer robot in the world now. What do you think about Shatter this year, Pory?
I mean, I feel like they definitely overtook Vita as the best hammer, I'd say. Because, I mean, Vita made the quarterfinals once, but, you know, this season, like, is much more competitive. Plus, you know, it took more wins to get there, all that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, Shatter is a freaking amazing design. I've been a fan of it ever since, you know, Blue and Mega Melvin and stuff. Like, I've been following this robot for years, and it's
Same.
a glorious
Absolutely.
design, very creative. Love the strafing it does, and by the way, Rusty for another hammer bot. You said it was the only hammer bot.
But this is the first only pure hammer. Rusty still has the air drill kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. But but yeah, Shatter is definitely a bot to watch. I mean, it looks great this year. You know, has that. I love that new like blade it has. It's like Nightmare from Soul Calibur. It's like
the Mary special.
Mm-hmm.
Very Overkill-esque.
Nice.
That's what it reminds me of. I'm assuming that they're going to be using that blade for horizontal spinner fights, so they don't have to worry about losing the axe head, which I think ended up being kind of a major factor for them when they lost against Malice in that one awkward fight they had in round 2 last year. So hopefully that won't be an issue for this year. I know you said something about them having. You said they have another attachment that we might see this year. One designed for snapping verts.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard through. I've seen it yet. I don't know what it looks like, but I've heard through the grapevine that apparently there's like a vert sniping hammer. I don't know if it's a longer hammer or what is it, but that's what I've heard, and I'm looking forward to that for sure.
I remember you saying that right before we were recording this. I hope that ends up being true. I haven't heard too much about that myself, but I could definitely see it being, because I know we saw at Robot Ruckus this year, we saw Extinguisher adding a bit of an extension to their hammer with that long spike. I could definitely see them doing something like that, maybe something a bit more sturdier and permanent than that, making another hammer mold, kind of like they have for the old Rusty hammer, or the other hammer that they use a lot. Maybe just adding one long extension to it, so it can just kind of like peek out a little bit right there, and maybe acting more like a hook, maybe. You know, it could be something a bit more tactical, because they certainly have the robot for that. The way they circle around their opponents, they've always been very well driven, very tactical in the way they pursue their opponents, and that's why they ended up being probably the biggest surprise top 8 contender last year, in my opinion. Really proving that Hammerbots are still like a meta competitor, and they still can be done right. You know, fighting for the Thors and the Apocalypses of the world and all those robots in the UK, which hopefully we'll see make the cross sooner rather than later. But talking about Shatter here, I am super excited to see it this year. But do you really think this robot is going to be a robot we see replicating that success coming into this new season?
I don't know about top 8. I hope so, but right. I mean, I feel like top 32 for sure. Like, it's probably going to make bracket unless like it gets fed to like, you know, the toughest verts in the field.
Which it might. It certainly warrants a better schedule this year, because they had such a good run last year.
Yeah, I don't think we know any fights of it yet, do we?
I
can't recall.
But, I don't believe we do.
It all depends.
Did they have the wedgelets last year? The front wedgelets? I believe they did. Those front wedgelets?
Yeah, they did.
Profile? That's what I thought. They do have the stoppers this year. That's going to be a big factor. And it does seem like they have much better protection for their weapon motor. Of course, they have the new extension, which has the same shattery sort of aesthetic. And of course, the Shatter also... team known for using the blade of armor. We forgot to mention that. Of course, they're still rocking the blade of armor this year. That extra layer hidden caked up all around that titanium stuff. It's gonna be super exciting to see Shatter still be as durable as ever on top of its usual stuff. Maybe you can even get some revenge on Endgame with the Mary special weapon, or even with the sniper. Hopefully that does turn out to be an extra weapon that they use
Yeah,
this year. I definitely agree. I don't think Shatter. It's going to be at least really hard for Shatter to make the same run that they made last year. Um, but I definitely think they're going to be a playoff contender. They've really solidified themselves as a fan favorite, especially a New York favorite, most popular robot there right now compared to a Pain Train, which is still getting their footing. Um, Hopefully, we do see a Textbook Hexbug toy oven for their sake. I know that in the Scorpius blog, there was a little thing saying that showing off a Hexbug Shatter that they made that they were trying to show up to the Scorpius, to the Hexbug executives. So hopefully
yeah.
they sell that off because I would love to have a little mini Shatter like I have my little mini Blacksmith here. But yeah, super excited for Shatter as we now move on to our next robot coming out of North Carolina. Now, of course, the robot from North Carolina by way of England. We're talking about Team Danby here, one of the most active teams in the sport right now in terms of heavyweight action. I believe they got 4 active heavyweights right now with Predator, of course, now fighting again. They have Apex, of course, fighting in the UK and now potentially coming to the US soon. I think they even recently got Tanto back. And they have Slammo 1.0 running at Robot Ruckus, and here's Slammo 2.0 now competing this year at Battlebots. It's a brand new design. Of course, they don't have the Mobot sponsorship anymore, so now they're running the 3D glasses kind of aesthetic with the British flag kind of theme as well. Aside from the means of attack for Slammo, everything about this robot has been changed. They have custom-made nylon wheels now. They have a brand new armored setup and internally covered wheels now, so there's no more exposed wheels, exposed issues now. We know that the team, just like last year, has tons of different configurations and setups for this robot. Plenty of fork setups, probably multiple plow setups as well. We all know Quick Danby is a very successful driver when the bot wants to work for him. He has had some bad luck, but it looks like after pretty much a 20-year career in robot combat, Quick Danby finally had that breakout season last year with Slammo. So plenty going right for him now, especially in terms of Robot Ruckus. I believe he tied for first in 2019, got third with Slammo 1.0 just now at Robot Ruckus 2021. What do you think of Slammo this year, Pory?
Oh, I'm excited for Slammo. It's one of my favorites for sure. It's going to be a lot of fun, and now it's Slammo without the W because Mobot isn't. I think Mobot's was bought by someone else or something.
Yeah, Mobot is no Mo. Husqvarna is
Yeah,
now the
it's no Mo.
only mowing robots that are out there, and it's funny because Husqvarna is now is sponsoring Ice Wave this year, so that'll be a silly grudge
Yeah.
match that maybe even Slammo might be able to win with the right attachment. That would be a fun match, in fact.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree. But yeah, Slammo, and it looks really good. I like the 3D comic motif that they got going on now. That's a
It
lot of fun.
does.
I like that a
It
lot.
it really pops out like none of the other robots. I think this is probably one of the best redesigns we've seen this year in terms of color and livery for sure. Of course,
Yeah,
the
I want to put
Slammo.
on
Go ahead.
I want to put on actual 3D glasses and watch Slammo fight when the season airs and see if it looks cool when I do.
Oh yeah, it's gonna pop. You can't go wrong with the red and blue. It definitely has that
Yeah.
trippy look to it in terms of the armor paneling and everything. And they have the red and blue lifting forks. It's just sharp altogether. Of course, they come in.
Yeah.
Slammo comes in with a career record of 4-4. That is not factoring their Robot Ruckus performance, which I believe would knock it up to 7-6. I would want to say.
Something like
Um,
that.
yeah, I believe that's right. It got third place at that event. Slammo, of course. We do know one of its matchups. We don't know when it's going to happen, but we do know it's fighting Hypershock at some point, according to the Battlebots trailer. It looks like it is taking a bit of damage in that matchup, but it's going to have to be one of those things that Slammo has to get used to if it's going to make a big run in this event, is fighting those big spinners. They did have their big issues against robots like Black Dragon and Hijinks last year, maybe more so against the vertical spinners. It did manage one suplex against Hijinks. That would be a fight I would like to see ran back. But I was just excited to see Slammo make the playoffs last year.
Oh yeah, that was great. Slammo going 2-1 with 2 KOs, and people finally shut up about the Danby curse. It's great. I'm happy that he finally found some success, and I hope he can do it again this year.
Right. We're seeing a lot of these British curses break. We saw the Beta curse break, now the Danby curse break. I mean, Craig Danby really wanted to make sure that this bot was sturdy and he was not going to deal with the issues. We know that Craig Danby was literally driving this robot off moving vehicles and stuff to make sure he was reliable and he was resilient. And he has the pit crew to back it up this year. Of course, Team Mobot, or Team Danby as they're now called once again, has always been a really solid crew. We saw it last year. And now they've added Chaos Corps, of course, the team usually behind Bombshell for this year. They have the added
Yeah.
tools, they have the added manpower, they have guys like Dan Hammer on the team now for this year. I really do believe that Slammo, it's up there with some bots like Defender, Gruff, and we were just talking about it. Overhaul, in terms of robots, I believe can be the most successful clamp bot this year, or control bot, Big Dill, and Claw Viper 2. And I'm not just saying this because it's on my King of Draft team this year, though that is I am hoping it does good for that reason. Slammo, I really do believe it's going to be one of the. I believe that once again, it's going to be the most successful clamp bot this year, control bot this year. They've made the upgrades and changes that they definitely weren't necessary for this robot. And I believe it's probably going to be just like Defender, the robot built best to make use of the upper deck, ledging robots onto the side profile bits or even the corner bits or even the screws, really making some damage, making some use out of that. I can see them getting up to the top 16 with the right schedule, the right run, the right opponents. And if the opponents have the right wear down later into the bracket, maybe they can even make top 8 with a situation like that. But yeah. With the lack of UK representatives this year, it's cool to see Slammo kind of take that banner a little bit. Of course, they have the big UK flag on the robot this year, and they have it draped around Craig Danby in the team photos. So he's putting the weight on his shoulders, along with a couple other robots like Jaeger and Combot this year. Super excited for Slammo this year, as we now move on to our final Northern Region robot. Now, capping off the Eastern region, we have one more robot from New York. I keep botching that. I said that there was only one robot from Washington, and then we immediately did another robot from Washington. Now I just said that there are only 2 robots in New York, and here we are covering SME, one of the most unique robots coming out 2020. Jesus, I'm really stepping ahead here. 2020, it was well hyped up even before the 2020 season, pre-COVID. Of course, this robot was probably one of the most popular robots to come out of the Norwalk Havoc scene with its very unique design, proving that even wedge bots can be super exciting with the right concept. It was the widest 3-pound robot at the time. I think there's been wider, different concepts now because this robot did change out the meta a little bit. But now we have this robot, the full-sized 14-foot wide SME. Of course, the widest robot in Battlebots history with its 2 undercutters and its 4 wheels. It has the bendable plow still, but they're now rocking black and white instead of the yellow and blue. It seems like the plow itself is a lot more plowy than Wedgie did last year. Seems like the front's a lot more steep. Of course, it's a lot sleeker this year. It's a brand new design, brand new version of SME, I should say. And they have a brand new drive system on top of it, doubling their drive power with a new set of Dongguan brushless motors. And they have made their wheels wider and stronger with 10 times the static traction, as the team has said. It is a bit of a unique situation with SME. I think a lot of fans thought that we were potentially going to see Calc or Wildproof Sealant or whatever you want to call the mystery multipod that we saw doing really well at Norwalk Havoc earlier this year as a heavyweight, because we knew that they were trying to apply with the trio of a smaller SME, a heavyweight Droopy, and the
Star
third one
Child.
slipping me. Yeah, heavyweight Star Child. But whenever the news dropped that Droopy's captain was moving over to the Malice team, it seemed like that died off. But we're happy to see SME here, though, this year. And we do know that they brought Button Lee for reasons unknown. It will be interesting to see if Button Lee does get an exhibition, but I seriously doubt it. SME, of course, coming in with a career 2-3 record. They had some trouble in the regular season, but did manage to have a 1-1 Bounty Hunters appearance, getting a huge upset win over fellow Big Bot Mammoth in a win I don't think many people expected Mammoth to, I should say SME to take. And then they did put up a contested fight against Kraken in the Bounty semifinals, but ended up falling short. With the changes that have been made to this year's SME, what do you think is going to happen with it this year, Pory?
I'm hoping good because I drafted SME. SME is one of my favorites for sure. I love the design and idea, and I'm definitely a huge fan of it overall, but it just depends who it draws. We don't know any SME fights yet, and I mean, it did well last year. It got 2 wins, and quite frankly, 2 of its losses, I kind of disagreed with the decision. I thought it beat
Yeah, it
Pain Train, and
definitely
I
should have beat Pain
thought it
Train. We were
beat
talking about it
Kraken.
earlier.
I
And
know Kraken is a little hazy, like it could go either way, but I would have probably given that to SME. But did it's I feel like SME has the advantage of being like it's like huge in 2018. It's like, how the hell do I fight this thing?
right. And I feel like Smee, well, Smee's going to get better, of course, with time, but I feel like Smee didn't come out of
Yeah,
the gate as hot as a Huge or Mammoth, though it does follow the similar big bot gimmick concept. Of course, very exciting. I do hope we do see Smee fight Huge this year and a couple of the other
yeah.
bulkier bots. I know teams Deep Six has expressed interest about fighting Smee. That would be
Well, that'd
another
be a fun
fight.
fight.
I'd be super interested to see. I
I hope
definitely
that doesn't happen though, because I have both robots, and that would just mean I'd get less points
Hey,
from
you
them.
might get that William Shatner clause bonus. Maybe Deep
That's
Six
true. I
will
hope.
pop a half a Smee into the ceiling or something crazy. I do want to see if a robot can split that front Smee plow. That would be a
Oh yeah,
very
I was
interesting thing
rooting
to
for it to
see.
win the Tombstone bounty for that reason. I was like, can Tombstone split that thing in half? But we didn't
Right.
get that, obviously.
Try to wear it down. Oh man, that would have been crazy to see. Who knows? Maybe we'll
Oh,
see it this year. We also don't know too much about Tombstone's schedule as well. Of course, Joe Fabiani, one of the most best spirited drivers in the field this year. Always super insightful on Reddit and anywhere online with his stuff. But he always comes in with some crazy designs. Of course, we've now seen Boring competing in Norwalk with it's sort of a modified version of Smee, now with a lifting weapon as well. Maybe we can see that in a future version of Smee. But with this year's
yeah.
Smee, of course, they have a bit of ground to cover, 2 and 3 last year. Like I said, there's plenty of room to flip it around, though. You always get excited for a Smee fight because it's something different. It's something that stands out. But if robots can find a way to get around it the same way P1 did at the end of the last season, they're going to have some trouble. They got to stay nimble and they got to stay up front, and they've got to use upper deck areas. They can. I think I wanted to see this me do before we cap it off here. With the addition of the upper deck and that back wall, I think Smee might be able to perfectly corral a robot in one of those little corners, since the battle box is kind of now a U shape to some
Yeah.
extent. I know they can't hold it long because they have the corralling rules, but they can do
Mm.
if they can do that repeatedly in a fight, they might have a good chance to get some real control points and aggression points and take a fight. But yeah, super excited for Smee this year.
Oh,
You always get excited for a Smee fight, and now let's cap it off here and move on to our intro. Thank you for sticking around till the end of another Battlebots Preview episode here. As we now finish off the East Coast of New England, we're going to cap off our 8-part series next by going down south a little bit, covering Florida, and then finishing off with the overseas region, covering all of our favorite international superstars. You can keep following us as always on Facebook and Instagram, and by joining our Discord server. You can listen to us and watch us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you find your shows. This has been Sterling Brown here in the Combot Collective Studio. You can find me on Instagram at SterlingTXTG, and hopefully in more projects coming into 2022. Of course, I want to start vlogging, and I have another podcast coming up called PhD and BS that hopefully will be in the first quarter of the year. You can find my correspondent PoryNog at his YouTube channel, www.dippyegg.xyz, which recently hit 500 subscribers and is still growing. And that's going to wrap it up for us here. Battlebots is now less than 2 weeks away, so stay excited and stay hot. It's a really exciting time of the year. We're so close now. Have a great night, and thank you.
This was the Combot Collective. Find us on Instagram and Discord.